Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Thanks for coming back to my channel. My name is Harmony, and I'm still getting over this lovely thing we call pneumonia. It's been a rough road, but I am, I think, on the up and up at this point, so only good things are to come. But figured I would take this time and just sit down and there is an acquaintance of my sister. She's also a YouTuber. Her daughter is turning 3, I believe, next month. And so I figured I would go ahead and just make her something really pretty and dainty, just kind of simple, and using the new floral style that I tried out for the first time last week. If you hadn't seen it, I posted a picture of it on my Instagram and my Facebook, and it's just this really cool, a different kind of style that I'm not really used to using, so I figured I would try it. But I figured I would do a little story time and take this opportunity, since we are celebrating a birthday of a child, and just talk a little bit about my first child. She is 3.5, and she changed my entire life and perspective on life. So I knew growing up very early that I wanted kids, and then when I hit my mid-20s, when I was in college, I was like, nope, I do not want kids at all. I am in no shape or form prepared to take care of a tiny person. So I think that's kind of the norm when you're in your 20s, if you are kind of into the party scene. Not so much the party scene, but just really kind of finding out who you are. And so a lot of times we kind of say, nope, this is not what I want. But I think it's really healthy to always keep your perspective open, because by my mid-20s, I changed my mind again and was like, you know what? I kind of want to settle down and have a family and have a couple kids. So, our opinions change and our situations change. And so when I was hitting the end of my 20s, I was like, yep, I definitely want kids. So I actually ended up having my firstborn the day after I turned 30, believe it or not. And it was a life-changing moment. So back to the beginning, when I first found out I was pregnant, I remember I woke up in the middle of the night and something just inside of me said, you need to take a test. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I had to use the bathroom. Went into the bathroom, peed on that lovely little stick, and I didn't even have to wait the full 2 minutes for her to come back and say, bitch, you're pregnant. So, yeah, right away. It was like instantaneous. Yep, your ego is prego. So, at the time, I was kind of like in a moment of shock and didn't really know what to do. I didn't really cry. I kind of was just like, holy crap, okay, this is real. In that moment, it was very real. So I woke up my partner and let him know, and that was that. And I couldn't go back to bed, so I kind of waited a couple hours, because at the time I was living in Colorado and my family was back in Maine. And so because of the time difference, I chose to wait when I knew my mom would be up, and I called her. And I remember having that conversation. She obviously started to cry because she was excited, and then nervous, and then scared and concerned, and then it went back to I'm so excited. And so we kind of went through that roller coaster of emotions together. And a couple of days later, I went in for my very first appointment, and it was still very, very early. I think I was only 5 weeks, and so at that point, she was just a little bean, but she was there. We heard her heartbeat, and they say it's instant love, and it really truly is instant love. And it's a love like nobody could ever explain, but all mothers know it because they all feel it. So, you know, throughout my pregnancy, I was kind of lucky and didn't really experience too much morning sickness. I would have every once in a while, but it didn't really seem to faze me. And at the time, I was working full-time in the city, and so I was commuting back and forth. And from that moment on, you know, my mother and I, we would talk literally every single day. We would check in with each other, and she would ask me, you know, how are my girls doing? And it was kind of a cool little change to our relationship as well. So we got a lot closer, definitely, with me being pregnant and everything. And I'm sure it was hard for her, me being so far away, and you know, it being my first child, it was definitely hard for me being so far away, going through this experience, you know, not in the same state as my mom, but we did it, and we're definitely a lot closer for it. Towards the end of my pregnancy, you know, I experienced a lot of aches and pains like everybody typically does, but because, like I stated in my earlier video, I had experienced a serious snowboarding injury, and so because of that, I was having a lot more discomfort and pain, and I was actually at one point walking totally crooked and couldn't quite sit correctly, and to be honest, I couldn't even really walk upstairs. I literally had to hand over foot crawl up the stairs because at the time I was living in a 2-story, and so it was definitely painful, but you know, I grinned and bared it and got up every morning and continued to go to work. So I think it was about my 36th week, I went in for my appointment. My doctor checked me and said I wasn't even remotely close to being dilated at that point. So I knew that I was probably going to go full term at that point. So we just kind of prepared to go full term and just to kind of see where things went on their own. And so I think towards the very, very end of my 37th week, I was experiencing so much pain and discomfort that it was getting a lot harder for me to walk, and it was affecting my abilities to work. So I ended up staying home for what would have been the last couple weeks of my pregnancy. But I remember the day that my water broke. And so what ended up happening was I woke up that morning, and my mom and I had our daily conversation in the morning, and we checked in with each other, and she told me that she was already looking at plane tickets to come out to be here for the birth of my child. And so we talked about that for a little bit. And I remember when I woke up earlier that morning, you know, I mean, when you're pregnant, your body goes through a lot of changes. You experience a lot of different things, and one of them is unusual fluid, if you want to call it that. And so I woke up that morning, and, you know, there was kind of a little bit more fluid than normal, but I didn't think anything of it. And I just remember throughout the morning, I kept going to the bathroom and feeling like I had to pee, but then I would go to the bathroom and I wouldn't pee, but there was fluid. And then I remember I had to end up changing my underwear a couple times, and I was like, okay, this is weird. I don't really know what's going on. And then further on into the afternoon, I just remember having a little bit of discomfort, kind of like, I guess, what would have been considered period pain. And so I called my mom and I kind of told her what I was experiencing. And my mom was like, you need to call your doctor. I was like, Mom, it's fine. It's nothing. It's okay. It's just, you know, I mean, I'm getting close to labor. It's fine. She was like, you need to call your doctor. And I'm glad I did, because I called my doctor and he told me to come in and just get checked. And I went in and, you know, I laid on the bed and I was like, all right, they're just going to check me, whatever, and then they're going to send me home. Well, they did this little strip test, and it basically checks to see if you have amniotic fluid. And so they ended up doing the test, and they're like, yep, your water broke. So not even knowing it, my water had broke earlier that morning. And because it wasn't a clear break, it was just kind of slowly leaking, more or less. So they admitted me, hooked me up to everything, and we just kind of waited. And we waited, and we waited. And even with all the Pitocin and all the other tactics, I still was not progressing past a 4. So after 40 hours of waiting, thank you, doctor, he decided, all right, we're just going to go in and take her out on her own. So that's what they did. And it was the day after I turned 30. And I just remember thinking to myself, my world is going to completely change the second I go into that operating room and I meet my daughter. And it truly did. The second I saw her, it was almost like this out-of-body experience. And I wasn't convinced for a little bit that this is not real life. This is not real life. Like, what? I have a daughter. But there she was, 6 pounds, 4 ounces, tiny little thing. She was my world. I stayed in the hospital a couple more days because I had to have a C-section. And so after she was about 2 months old, I ended up moving back to Maine. Just some personal things in my life had happened that led me back to Maine, and I met my now husband Joe, and not planning it, ended up pregnant with our second child. And 18 months later, we had baby girl number 2. You know, children are stressful. They're dirty as but they are amazing. And speaking of, my children are out in the living room screaming right now as we speak. They're so great. No, but in all seriousness, I love them to death, and I wouldn't change it for anything else. Yeah, so this is the final piece, and like I said, I will go ahead and mat it and probably find a cute little frame for it and give it to her for her 3rd birthday. It's just something simple, cute, very girly, but very personal. So thank you so much, you guys, for stopping by. I am working on new videos. I have a new video that I've been working on using Crayola Watercolors, so keep an eye out for that. And if you guys have any questions, comments, definitely leave them down below. And I will catch you guys later. Thanks so much.